Hey everybody, Evan here. I'm super excited about this chat with Jeff Green from Myntex. Jeff, how are you?
Not too bad. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. I know it's a beautiful time of the year in Canada up north, but you're in a data center somewhere. Where is that background, which I believe is not virtual?
No, this is not virtual. This is actually in our main office in Calgary, Mintex headquarters. We, especially being in the security industry, it's pretty hard to say that, hey, we're in the cloud, which that's literally just somebody else's servers, right? So we actually built our own small data center here in Calgary for our clients' communication systems.
Fantastic. Well, give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself, but also Mintex and how you got started in security and communications.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm Jeff Green. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Mintex. We specialize in secure communication systems. We kind of the name Mintex actually originally came from a name Mint e-currency exchange incorporated, and this is going back 13 years ago, where it was very hard to actually get money into PayPal. Right, the U.S. was first for everything, so it was very easy to link up your bank
Mm.
account. We had thought, hey, we could kind of be an intermediary and help with that. And then before, it was basically we had a website getting ready to launch. And then before that, it had right before launch, we kind of pivoted. We fell into the security industry. Yeah, it was completely by fluke. We knew a lot of businesses out of Vancouver. So this is going to the old BlackBerry days. So with the old BlackBerries, you had the option to use Symantec PGP to be able to use your encrypted business emails. And a lot of companies didn't have the infrastructure, didn't have the know-how. So we started with that. So we've got some used servers and we set up a data center in our living room, funny enough. And it operated there for just a few years, just kind of for fun with a few companies that we knew. And then it just started to expand and getting busier and busier. And by 2014, it was like, we need a data center, we need an office. And yeah, so we started looking into it. We purchased this in Calgary. And yeah, 2016 was the big grand opening. And then over the years, we slowly pivoted with the times. Of course, BlackBerry, sadly, has become a software-only company. And we are BlackBerry MSSPs. We have to give them a shout out as well. We still use the
Nice.
technology for some things. And so our primary product is both used on UEM as well as our new custom OS, which is called Renati, which we can get into. And yeah, so over the years, as Android became more predominant, we started working on a secure communications application for Android. And then from there, it just kind of kept going. It never ended, right? And we're now seeing security as the hot topic for everybody, which is great.
Yeah, it's top of mind every day with data breaches and all kinds of shenanigans happening. Top of the
Yes.
news, top of mind every day. And talk about what you do in that context. I mean, mobile security is your sweet spot. Aren't mobile devices endpoints secure today with encryption and other techniques?
So funny you say that. We're actually just up in B-Sides conference up in Edmonton, and it's a 2-day conference, and it's literally all about security. It's all about mobile security, about data security. Like a lot of it will be large corporations protecting their data centers, protecting things in the cloud. And when you look at the statistics these days, like if you go back just 10 years, and it wasn't that big, right? You would talk about, encrypted solutions and, actually
Mm.
encrypting servers and just the basic security things that you should always do. And then people would just kind of laugh, oh, we don't need that. It doesn't, that never happens, right? It's never going to happen to me. And then now it's to the point where it's something like over 90% of companies will be attacked. And there will be some weird vulnerability, not necessarily it's going to lead to ransomware or
Mm.
any data getting leaked or anything like that. But it's nice to see that the mindset of companies as well as individuals have changed over the years, which is really nice.
Yeah, well, that's a sea change in our industry. And so, what's your approach? I mean, how do you prevent data breaches and other intrusions? What's your philosophy or technology there?
Yeah, so looking at protecting, so if we go back to kind of the original question there, so we start to look
Hmm.
at standard Android and iOS devices. That's kind of where our niche security market is. Not to say that they're not secure, but if you start
Hmm.
to look at any system, right? So you look at Windows, you look at Linux, and you look at Apple. So if we look at those three key ones, if you're a hacker, you are going to want to target the most used operating system. So
Mm.
Linux, there's exploits for Linux, but it's not so popular, right? So you're going to attack Windows, and Windows also has a little bit easier. People aren't always updating Windows, so it's an easier attack surface. So if we start to look at Apple and Google, so both the standard Android operating system and iOS, Apple has done a really good job on protecting things. And of course, they're always pushing out security, security, security. But when you look at Android, Android's more open source. So they allow vendors to tweak things, change things, take the OSP source code. Samsung has a flavor, OnePlus has a flavor. And so there's not one size fits all when it comes to using Android. And so a lot of companies can make mistakes. They can leave things vulnerable. It can go all the way down to your actual kernel layer, right? So if you're looking at MediaTek, sadly, MediaTek has had a lot of bad publicity with errors inside their kernel and zero-day exploits. But if you look at just a standard attack surface, if there's billions and billions of Android devices, you're going to want to look at targeting those. So it is nice to see that Google has put out the Pixel line of devices. So you're able to get, so as like a standard user, if you purchase a Google Pixel, it's really nice because you'll get the security updates before everybody else. But that being said, they're designed for the masses. They're designed for everybody. And so where we come in is we guarantee both end-to-end encryption, which you can use with Signal, WhatsApp, you could debate, but Threema and all that. So they specialize in end-to-end encryption. Where we come in is we guarantee also at rest. So you have your at rest encryption, which I believe Threema does as well. I think they're one of the few that actually use a secondary encryption algorithm when they store it to the device. But then you have to look at the device in general. And the B-Side security conference we went to was an eye-opener for a lot of people that we saw. Harsh Modi was the one that did the Android hacking, which was he was on the second day. And that one was quite interesting because he talked about how easy it is to start to look at how to hack banking applications and government applications. And it's almost like you have this mindset with mobile development in general that, you build an application, you stick it onto a phone, and it's like sticking it onto a server. Nobody has access to it, right? It's just this weird mentality. The problem is it's very, very easy to do, right? Some of the big ones that kind of blew my mind without getting too crazy into the technical aspects of it is when you look at Android, you have an Android manifest that's going to declare your permissions that you're going to need to request. A lot of developers put credentials in there. Well, if you have access to the phone, which of course is a regular phone, you could pull those credentials out and you could start attacking systems. So what we've now done too is originally we started with our application.
I think we may have lost your audio, Jeff. I'm not sure if you can maybe change your Bluetooth connection or maybe go to speaker.
Yeah.
There you go. You're back. And I was just getting to your story there. And I was like, where's the punchline? I got to get the punchline. So yes, reshare that.
Yeah. So originally,
anecdote.
we had started on our chatmail application.
Nope, I lost you again.
We're dropping out.
Looks like it's connecting to something else besides your speaker or maybe your headphone. Maybe you can turn Bluetooth off.
Yeah, let's just double check here. There shouldn't be anything going on here, but let's.
This is unfortunate. I rarely have audio problems, but here we have one.
Yeah, that's really weird. That
again, no, I can't hear you, unfortunately. Maybe turn your Bluetooth off so you're just on a speaker, or he's going to come back. So I don't know, folks. Maybe I should try to do a little bit of dancing or a little bit of shadow puppets. But in any case, you are back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now? I got you back. I was just doing some dancing in the meantime, literally and figuratively.
Thanks for holding the fort. Well, yeah,
no, it's okay. It's these things happen. I'm just glad it wasn't some kind of attack. There was someone who didn't like what you were saying, but it's just a technical glitch. But yeah, let's go back to your story about Android devices. You had captured my attention there. So
definitely. So originally going back to BlackBerry, BlackBerry of course started to die out. So now it was like, okay, do we look at iOS or we do look at Android? So we started to look at Android. The big reason behind Android is they allow you to customize how you want to use the storage. You can use your own proprietary encryption algorithms. iOS kind of wants you to follow down their road, which we could get into iOS. That's a really fun story just in general. So we looked at building a productivity suite, which was an encrypted communication system. The way that the name Chatmail came about was actually one of our previous owners we were walking up the stairs one day, and we had basically built, by a total fluke, we wanted to work with PGP email. And so PGP is predominantly used just on email. You can do it for other things, but originally we started using it just for email communication so we could continue to communicate with other providers as well as the old BlackBerry devices. And then we had thought of this crazy idea where we could actually take an email, parse it all out, and make it look like chat. And so the name Chatmail came about. We can take the mail and we can make it look like chat. And so that was the very, very first version. And then from there, we wanted to look at integrating proper chat protocols. So we actually implemented the Signal protocol. So it's all built into one system. But then remembering, right, like, yes, we have, at rest encryption, we have in transit encryption, but then the phone is still going to be the weakest link. And so we had used MDM solutions like BlackBerry UEM to protect the actual hardware from intrusion, from physical intrusion. Then we started actually working on our own custom operating system. And so that one was really important to us. So I do say it's custom operating system, but it is based on Android open source projects. We basically took that, strip out the packages we don't want, and we're one of the world's first privately managed, security focused Android-based operating systems. And by doing that, we're able to control all aspects of the device. We can make sure, the web browsing is removed. We have Bluetooth that's removed, NFC, all the stuff that you don't necessarily need. One of the really cool things, we kind of stumbled on this in the development process, was tracking, right? So you have GPS, that's system on a chip. So you can't just rip out a GPS chip. It doesn't work that way anymore with modern hardware. And so like, okay, well, it should be super easy, right? We can modify the hardware abstraction layer. We can pull out GPS, and hey, you'll have no more tracking through GPS. And so that was the easy part. You could just remove a package and hey, there's no more GPS. But then there's some commands you can run on the back end of Android, and there was still data coming in for location. It was fuzzy location, so it wasn't 100% accurate, but there was still location data. Well, that's really weird. So we dig into it a little bit more, and we find this package called fuse location. And so what fuse location is, which we learned both iOS and Android have this by default, is if you go back, we'll say a decade, when Google Maps was first coming out, when you would open that application, it would take a long time to get your coordinates, right? To get to know exactly where you are. And so, of course, users, they want things instant. So when you open your maps, you want to know where you are. So they built into this thing called fuse location. So even if you don't have your GPS on, the phone still knows exactly where you are. So now when you open Google Maps, it's almost instantaneous to know your exact location.
Wow.
So we found that. We're like, okay, well, let's remove it. So we remove it. The whole phone blew up. It was bad. It was, AOSP did not like that. Android did not like that in general. And so we started to look into it further, and it was nested so deeply into the system. It took over a month to actually remove everything. And
Wow.
it was to the point where every time you lock and unlock your phone, it would pull a location. Not, exactly to a 1 meter or 3 meter radius, but it would actually pull it every single time. So we've been able to take all of that, strip everything out, prevent root exploits to it, prevent ADB access to it. And then we hired a company that was a couple months ago to do a forensic certification on our device. And so we actually now have a full report where, using modern extraction tools, you're not able to actually take the physical device and extract our data as well. So we've protected all aspects of it. Now, of course, it is a very niche product at the moment, and it is designed for your C-suite, for government, large organizations, but we are working on new products in the pipeline to be able to bring it to the masses at more reasonable price points, which is always the goal, to bring privacy to.
Well, that's a phenomenal. A niche,
Yeah.
can get bigger over time, as we've all seen in security. So how do you balance this very strong encryption lockdown approach with ease of use, for the users, for those end mobile users? Is that a challenge as well? I mean, you want all the different apps, you want to, be able to message and call and et cetera. What's the balancing act like there?
So, over all these years, with education is key with everything. And going back in time, when Chatmail first came out, which of course the application, it was so easy to use. Users thought it wasn't as secure as other applications, because you looked at existing PGP applications, even today, other than Proton Mail, they're very complicated to use. It's easy to make a mistake. And so we
Right.
wanted to fix that, right? Because normally, if you look at predominantly phishing scams are the easiest way for anybody to get into an organization. Well, the phishing scam relies on users, right? So if users are the weakest link, you need to make sure that you don't make anything confusing. It should just be super easy to use and walk through, which is what we did, but then also had to combat, well, it's so easy to use. How could it actually be secure? Which is a really funny one to kind of look at. What was the other part of that question? So we had the balancing of ease of use.
And third-party apps like the App Store and,
Third-party apps.
yeah,
Yeah, right. So with ours being very niche, all of that is removed.
right.
So there is no way to get third-party applications onto it. So really, like depending on your threat vectors and kind of doing a risk assessment for your organization, you still potentially would have to have two phones. And that's really hard to sell a lot of people on, right? Like you're still going to have a personal phone and you're going to have a work phone. Now, many of the meetings that we go to with large organizations, they'll have 3 or 4 phones, which is crazy to me. Like I max 2 phones for me. But you are seeing it more and more and more. You'll have like a BYOD. So this is my device for work where I have 2 workspaces, plus I have another phone potentially just for personal use, or a lot of law firms will have multiple phones for specific clients and stuff like that as
Got
well.
it. Got it.
It's a tricky
And
one.
what about hard endpoints? A lot of people use VoIP devices. Some of those have Android, some don't. Are you looking to expand into non-traditional endpoints, tablets? It could be hard desk phones. It could be clients on the PC or laptop, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we are looking towards doing a desktop client, would be really nice. The tricky thing with that though, right, is we have all this technology, we can start to move it and port it. Now we've got the operating system out, we've got a full solution all complete now. The tricky thing is though, is if you were to sit down, a good example would be is how viruses can spread very
Mm,
rapidly. And so imagine if you're a journalist and you have a source. Now this source received a PDF document from somebody and he doesn't know it's infected. So he takes this PDF document and he sends it to the journalist. And the journalist is like, oh, this is really cool. And they open it. Now they don't know they're infected because this document is something they actually need and it's legitimate information. And so then they need to fact check it. So now the journalist is infected. The originator of this PDF is now infected. And then from there, they could send it to 3 or 4 people to fact check. But let's say it's something super interesting. The next person that receives it sends it to another friend. And then that's how rapidly malware can spread. And so if we
wow.
bring it back to let's do a desktop application. So with the phone, we control all aspects of all the way from the
Mm,
operating system, kernel level, all the way to the application layer and in transit. But then you start to look at the desktop. Well, it's very, very easy to infect a desktop. That's probably the #1 attack surface, right? You look at ransomware and all that stuff. That will normally originate on an outdated machine. Somebody will click it, it'll get in, and it'll just start spreading from there. And so we are looking at doing a web application, but then we have to kind of juggle for the very, security focused and paranoid people. How do you incorporate the two, right? Do we notify them that, hey, this is coming from a desktop client to be transparent? That's something we still got to figure out, but we do have some really cool products in the pipeline for sure.
I bet. So how do you guys stay ahead of emerging cybersecurity threats? I mean, every week it seems there's another zero-day announced or a patch or an upgrade, and these are the ones you know about, of course. There are many more you don't ever hear about. Pegasus spyware, that was a terrifying one
Still
from a
used, still
few
going on
months
now.
ago.
Yeah.
Still ongoing. What's your approach there?
So you've probably heard of the industry, right? It's not, if you're attacked or if there's a breach, it's when. And that is true, right? So you have to look at everything, and really it's mitigating risk. You need to take a look at like whether, we're talking about mobile security, desktop security, anything like that. You need to look at the whole thing as one unison product as an example and start to look at where are your entry points. If this is an entry point, what could actually be exploited from that? One of the big buzzwords is data exfiltration now. So if you start to look at that, it's like, okay, well, what we're learning now, which is quite interesting, is it's not necessarily you hack into an infrastructure and you spend years trying to get to the right computer, which then gets to the right server, and you're moving laterally through the infrastructure. What we're seeing now is just APIs. The B-Sides
Mm,
conference was all primarily about APIs. And you'll find that a developer or somebody, it'll do a code review, somebody will miss something. And instead of hacking an organization, you could just call, get customers. and
Mm.
is that admin true? And all of a sudden, the database gives you all the customers that you weren't
Wow.
actually supposed to have. So that's what we're starting to see now. So as an example with that one, is to mitigate that attack surface is, you shouldn't be delivering everything. There's no need to deliver everything, right? What you should do is strip it out, single endpoints for single use cases. It takes more work for sure, and it takes a little bit longer, but you really need a security first approach. Everybody's talking about, zero trust and zero knowledge and all that kind of, that's great, right? You do need to make sure that you are limiting privileges and all that kind of stuff. But then it comes down to, bring in your developers, talk with your developers, make sure they know what's going on in the threat landscape right now. So when they're developing, they can make the right choices to make sure that it doesn't get passed up a chain and missed on a code review, on a deployment or something like that. So it's really, bringing the whole organization in together to really think about security.
Brilliant approach. So tell us about your go-to-market. Do you sell directly to enterprises or agencies, partners? And I assume you'll work internationally as well here, also here in the US.
Yeah. So we've always been about 95% international.
Oh, wow.
Lately, in the past couple of years, we're finally 20% kind of domestic, 80% international. We originally, years ago, we tried to sell directly over a decade ago. But finding out that they were predominantly international and being a very small team, how is this going to scale? This isn't going to work. And
Mm.
so we kind of looked at like Radware as an example, Cisco, Juniper. They all use channel partners. So we actually restructured years ago around using channel partners. And then with that, what we'll do is as inquiries come in, we'll be able to sort through directly to who would be like the best company to use depending on the individual market. We do have a few direct contracts these days. But we do like to use channel partners because, of course, they'll be the first line of support if anything was to go wrong in their local time zone, and then, of course, they could escalate it up to us as well. But it's been fun. I would say the Renati project, building the AOSP based secure operating system, that was a lot of fun. You start to think, okay, we're going to build an OS, we're going to base it on AOSP. Okay, but there's no Google services, right? That's gone. There's no third party stuff on here, right? Other than some code, right? So then you're
Mhm.
looking at this going, well, how do we do secure package delivery? Well, we can't use an MDM solution like UEM because it's none of the software that it uses actually exists on the phone. And so we had to look at building a new microservice infrastructure with secure gateway systems, with package delivery systems. One of our developers right now, funny story. So we always err on the side of go very hardcore with security. So our
Mhm.
original package delivery system was way too hardcore. To receive a standard APK package to our device could take 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how fast your internet was. And that's not that. I mean, it's very secure, and we guarantee that that's perfect. Every single byte is being checked all the way across, but it's very slow. So there's always going to be a little bit of a trade-off. And so one of our developers right now, Anthony, he's actually working on a new package delivery system. Still does the same security checks, but not as aggressive. And we've received, I think it's about a 300% improvement on it over our previous version. So little things like that, it's always fun because we now have to build everything for the device. We also had to build our own secure MDM for the device as well.
Right.
So yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And then of course, I'm very big on branding. I don't know if I don't, or I do have one. So we had what we did on initial release is we wanted kind of a thank you to all of our beta testers that helped us to get to where we are, right? So what we did is we sent out these beautiful beta boxes that were all custom, actual handmade. I don't have a beta box here, which kind of sucks, but that one was super neat. And we sent that one out, and then for everybody participating, they got this really nice metal etched card. And on that card had a beta code. And so they could go, and as long as they gave us nice, like we're not nice feedback, but actual usable feedback, we gave them 5 free activations they could use for their clients. And then probably about a month ago, we actually finished our production boxes as well. So we're able to actually send this out to all of our channel partners worldwide. They can put it into their stores. So we've basically moved from more of an application communications solution to now like an entire solution where we can actually package it. You can bring your own device, or we can provide a device, and
Wow.
then be able to sell it to the consumer, which is nice.
That is very cool. Well, I can't wait to get my hands on one. If anything, just for street cred to show
Definitely,
this phone
definitely.
is
No, play with it.
is
See how it goes.
uh,
Yeah.
pretty fun. Really, your enthusiasm is so infectious. Congrats on everything you're doing. Any thing coming up that you're excited about? Events or partnerships or projects
So
the rest of the year?
yeah, I would say besides Calgary, I am looking forward to it. I've been to many conferences in my life, and truly, like a lot of time, there's always going to be vendor sponsorships for sure. But the one that we went to in Edmonton was like, yes, there was vendors sponsoring it, but the amount of knowledge that our
Mm.
team came away with from just those 2 days was amazing. It was truly amazing is the only way to put it. So I'm really looking forward to the one down in Calgary, which is actually bigger than the Edmonton one. Yeah, and then other than that, some of the really cool new products we're working on. I was actually just talking with one of our devs about kind of a very fancy endpoint threat detection system, which we've
Mm.
already built for our internal infrastructure, and realized we might actually be able to market some of this stuff. And we have to build it for our infrastructure, for our microservices. But yeah, there's lots of really cool things coming up for sure, for sure.
Oh,
You
I
always
can't wait to see more. And maybe I'll see you at RSA next year or one of the other big events here in the US. In the meantime, thanks so much for sharing that insight and wisdom. I learned a lot myself, so I'm really delighted that you could spend some time with us. And thanks everyone for watching. Reach out to Jeff and team with any
yeah,
comments or questions. You guys know your stuff, which is really wonderful to see. So thanks so much.
yeah. Thanks for having me.